Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be talking about and ranking every movie I saw in 2018 in the theater. So I had to go through some of my ticket stubs and go through my memories. I think I saw 13 movies. If I'm forgetting something, I am really sorry. But yeah, so I saw a lot of movies this year and I enjoyed all of them. There wasn't really anything I have negatively on here. I don't tend to go to movies if they're getting negative reception or I'm not interested in it. So pretty much everything I saw was good in my opinion. This is just my personal ranking, and a lot of this is going to be really controversial, but it's just my opinion, people, so you can calm down. So at number 13 was a breezy summer heist movie, Ocean's 8. Now, the main reason I saw Ocean's 8 was because I'm not familiar with the Ocean's series. I had not previously watched the movies, but the main reason I saw Ocean's 8 was because of the cast, was because it had Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett, and even people like Rihanna and Helena Bonham Carter in it. So I will say that the all-female cast was absolutely fantastic in the movie. There were some really great heist sequences as well, with the main plot taking place at the Met Gala. A lot of cool stuff with, like, in the kitchen, that sequence, and the thing, but overall, I just felt like it was a slightly kind of a pointless. I mean, I wasn't expecting, felt like I was expecting a little bit more from it, even though, yeah, it's a goofy heist movie, but I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, so, yeah, so, absolutely. But still, it just felt a bit weak in places in the plot points, which is like, it's over already, so there wasn't really a lot to come back to. So that was my weakest movie of the year. I'm going to put it at 6 out of 10. And these are just the movies I saw. Next up at number 12 is Crimes of Grindelwald. Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald. Now, I did enjoy this movie. It's not that I didn't enjoy this movie. There were some really good sequences. Of course, the visuals were amazing. It was great to see a Fantastic Beasts movie on the big screen, because I wasn't really watching stuff in the theater back then, or I didn't have time. It was a great movie to see on the big screen. Of course, the creatures. I love the characters in the movie. Of course, Newt Scamander. But, first of all, it just felt like it dragged on a bit, and it felt a bit over-convoluted, which was frustrating. And, at the end, just some of the stuff that happened, it's like, I was just not sure who or what I was supposed to be caring about or rooting for, and just, there's like a weird twist at the end, and I don't know if it's like true or not, and it seems like a bunch of setup for the next movie. That's what it feels like. It just feels like a bunch of convoluted setup. But it was still a really enjoyable movie. I loved being able to revisit the land of Fantastic Beasts, to revisit the characters, to revisit Newt and Tina. Queenie in this movie was kind of weird. Jacob, of course, and, so yes, I really enjoyed, getting to see this type of thing. So yes, the answer is 6.5 out of 10, sadly. Probably one of the weakest Harry Potter movies, if not the weakest Harry Potter movie I've seen. Next up at number 11 is A Wrinkle in Time. Now, this is another book adaptation, and I adore the book, A Wrinkle in Time. So, I really enjoyed this movie for those part. It seems like it got a pretty negative reputation, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought the performances were good, of course. A little bit weird to have Oprah in there as Mrs. Rich. And some of the visuals weren't really quite as I had, like, imagined them, but I do think they did a really good job with the visuals, and I do also think they did a really good job kind of updating it for modern times. So as a movie, it felt good, but as an adaptation of a book, it felt like it was lacking a bit. There were a couple sequences in particular, especially the sequences on Camazotz. I know it's, like, modern time now, and I understand, like, the portrayal she was getting with Camazotz when she wrote the book in the 60s was about, you know, everyone working their 9 to 5 and very strict, which is not like it anymore. But I do wish they had shown more of Camazotz. That is something that bothered me. And the whole weird part of the beach that was not in the book, I mean, I don't know. They, like, took the tasting, like, sand thing way too literally, and yeah, and then there's, like, a sequence with, like, running through a forest, and that was not in the book, and it's just, like, it doesn't need to be 100% faithful, but a lot of it just felt unnecessary and a little bit weird, but for the most part, it did hammer home the emotional points, it did get whatever. I felt like the end sequence dragged on a bit, but it definitely did what it needed to do. 7 out of 10. Next up at number 10 is going to be Solo, a Star Wars story. So if you know how much of a Star Wars fan I am, you might be surprised to see this a little bit lower. If you saw my Star Wars rankings, I put it at number 8 after Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. So this movie, in my opinion, is really solid Star Wars movie, but it's not fantastic. The second half of the movie, I really found myself getting really into it, getting really into the characters, getting really into what was going on. But I felt like, especially in the first half, I talked about this in my ranking, how I couldn't really see what was going on. It didn't really feel like a Star Wars movie until the second half, and this train sequence felt like it was ripping off Captain America, and then it just kind of didn't really go anywhere for a while. And once you got into the second half of the movie, and they're like flying the Falcon through the space whole thing, it became really good. And some of the twists I did not see coming. I'm very interested if they ever make sequels, which I don't know if they are, but I thought they signed the actor to a 3-movie deal, so I'm not sure. But if they ever decide to make a sequel, I'd be very interested to see what they're going to do with the characters, especially Kira. So, very interesting movie. I enjoyed it, but as a Star Wars movie, it felt kind of weak, so I'm going with a 7.5. Next up at number 9, oh boy, here comes all the controversy. So, before I get into this, yes, this opinion will undoubtedly change. But as of now, as of not having Endgame released, this movie, Avengers Infinity War, I can't enjoy it very much. Because I'm a type of person who needs some sort of resolution, and it's only half of the story. Again, that was my problem with Fantastic Beasts. I need to see what happens in order to justify what happened in Infinity War, in order to say, oh, that's a good storytelling point. I need to put Endgame onto the end of that. Once I can watch them together and know, oh, that's how it ends, then Infinity War will probably become an amazing, phenomenal movie to me. But it's a two-parter. We only have one part of the story, and that is my biggest problem with it right now. Also, there were too many characters, and trying to follow them just felt a bit convoluted. I will give you this. So just for me, as of right now, without that other part of the story, it's mid-tier MCU, which is still very solid and still an 8 out of 10. But before I go on from this, I will say that, I actually forgot what I was going to say. Oops. I was going to say that the MCU, oh, I will give it this much. It's a crap ton better than Age of Ultron, which blew! Alright, let's not talk about that. Let's move on to my number 8 pick, which is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp with an 8 out of 10. So the same score. This one I just had a little more fun with. It was just more fun and lighthearted. It was an easier time to follow. And honestly, this is just a good, solid mid-tier MCU film. Absolutely fantastic movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Messing with Ant-Man, I love the character of Ant-Man. It was so much better than the first Ant-Man, in my opinion. The first Ant-Man is not bad by any means, but it's in the lower tier. This movie just really brought the characters out, and I love that we gave more screen time to Wasp, Evangeline Lilly. Now, it is a bit frustrating, this predicament that we're in right now, but, again, Endgame should help with that. But it doesn't feel like it hinders the main plot of this movie as much as some others do. And if anything, the existence of Ant-Man and the Wasp just kind of hints to things to come. So, I really enjoyed the movie. It was a really fun ride. Next up at number 7 is going to be First Man. Now, I was really anticipating this movie, actually, because I love space travel stuff, and I love Ryan Gosling. And Ryan Gosling was playing Neil Armstrong. So I went into this, I was kind of, I don't know what I was expecting, a little bit more, like, not action, but a little bit more like whatever. And it turned out to be very dramatic, and it focused more on his life, and it was actually kind of sad, some of the stuff that it focused on in his life. And, what I loved about the movie, it did so well with dealing with, like, sound effects and, like, the shaking and, like, the visual effects to show, like, early space travel. I absolutely loved that. I thought it was fantastic. And, of course, Ryan Gosling's performance was fantastic. Yeah, so I just thought it was a really well-done drama, if not a bit slow-paced, but there were some really good sequences, with Neil, of course, and, the moon stuff and the space travel elements of it. Again, I absolutely love that in movies, and they did it really, really well, and there's like a lot of stuff going on. The whole ship is shaking, and like even just the opening sequence kind of grabs you, and I would not be surprised if this movie won some awards for effects, for sure. Next up at number 6 is going to be Bohemian Rhapsody. Now, going into this one, I heard a lot of mixed things about it. I heard that, like, Rami Malek was really good, and that, like, oh, the story's blah, like, oh, whatever. So I kind of didn't have super high expectations, and then I went into the movie. And let's just get this out there. It's a crowd pleaser. It's a by-the-numbers biopic. It's not supposed to be 100% accurate. It's not a documentary. It's not like the Oasis Supersonic documentary, where it's like an actual documentary, like everything that actually happened. No, this is like, this is a biopic using the traditional tropes. But the good thing about this, unlike something like The Greatest Showman, I don't think they made Freddie Mercury like wrong or like out of character. Like The Greatest Showman, they made P.T. Barnum like so much nicer than he was. Like there was a lot of drama with Freddie and surrounding different things in the movie, so it was really interesting to see that in the movie, and I really loved how they ended. I know they moved the timeline around a bit, but it made sense for something to like end with the Live Aid concert. That made sense in my opinion, for the sake of the movie. It's supposed to be getting emotional responses out of people. It's not supposed to be a 100% accurate documentary. And if somebody does want to make a Freddie Mercury documentary, I would love to see that, of course. But for what this is, I think it did a really good job. And I was just like stomping my foot the entire time. The soundtrack, of course, it's Queen. It's on a big screen. How can you not love it? And of course, again, Rami Malek's performance was fantastic. All the performances seemed fantastic to me. And I know they oversimplified a few things and changed up some things, but honestly, that's expected for a biopic. And it was so much better than The Greatest Showman, it's not even funny. Because I know The Greatest Showman is something that actually, I believe, did come out at the beginning of this year, or the end of last year. I didn't see it in the theater. I think I saw it on DVD, and I didn't like it all that much. So, yeah, this is so much better than The Greatest Showman, it's not even funny, in my opinion. Alright. Next up at number 5, exceeding expectations, is going to be Ralph Breaks the Internet. Now, I don't think this is better than the first Wreck-It Ralph. My dad did think it was better than the first Wreck-It Ralph, which is fine. I loved the first Wreck-It Ralph. It's so charming for what it is. It's just such a cute movie. But Ralph Breaks the Internet really expanded upon that formula. There's a lot of internet and meme-based humor, of course. I really laughed. I got a lot of laughs out of it. I enjoyed the movie as a whole. The internet-based humor definitely exceeded expectations on an emotional level. That bond and relationship, almost a father-daughter relationship in this movie between Ralph and Vanellope, was actually really emotional to see, like, Vanellope growing up and wanting to do her own thing, which was such an interesting plot point I was not expecting. I was just expecting, like, by the numbers, we need to go into the internet and get, like, I wasn't really, like, expecting emotional stakes here. And I love the stuff with the Disney princesses and the spoofs of Disney princess tropes. What they do with that. And I thought the main plot, and I love like the slaughter race game. It's like a spoof of Grand Theft Auto, and of course her song is hilarious. I just loved that in general. And some of the ending stuff felt a bit weird. It was like a more or less literal manifestation, and we were dealing with Ralph's character arc, which is important. I actually think it was some good messages / important like character arcs in this movie about friendship, of course. I mean, the lessons and the ideas behind Wreck-It Ralph was always about friendship, so definitely exceeded my expectations. I didn't like some of the imagery towards the end, but that's just my... So I'm going to give it an 8.5. Oh yeah, by the way, First Man and Bo Rap all got 8s out of 10s. This is an 8.5. Next up at number 4, also exceeding expectations, although I didn't know what to expect. Incredibles 2. Holy moly, this movie. So, I would actually love to watch this again. It's probably out on DVD. I could probably rent it. I really want to watch it again because dang, was this a fantastic movie. This one, in my opinion, did exceed the original. I think it did everything the original did and did more with it. And I like complex or more interesting types of villains. If anything, Syndrome is hilarious in the first movie, but he's not all that complex, and he doesn't need to be for what they're trying to accomplish. And yes, I love what they did with the first movie. And this is actually funny because my dad and I kind of flipped on this. He said the first Incredibles was better, and I said the first Wreck-It Ralph was better. So we kind of flipped on this. But anyway, and we were actually talking about this. He was talking about how Syndrome works so well as a villain. I do think he does, but I do wish he had a little more complexity to him. But in this movie, the villain, who I won't go into details with for spoilers, is so interesting to me. The villain and like some of the like side villains as well. I just found it to be a really interesting thing going on. The sequences are amazing. Of course, there's some train sequences always. Fantastic animation. The humor is really on point of Jack. Just seeing the family back together, just seeing the Incredibles in action again made me so happy. It just made me giddy. There was so much going on. I actually saw this movie on my birthday, so that was fun. And honestly, I just had so much enjoyment with it. And there were a lot of emotional stakes and stuff as well. It's Pixar. What do you expect? Fantastic, fantastic movie. Next up at number 3. Not surprising if you know me, but going to surprise a lot of people. And I feel like slightly unfair for putting this because I haven't read the book. I really want to. I think I started reading it, but I just got really busy and I don't own it, so I had a library and I return it because I'm really busy. So, but this movie I absolutely loved is Ready Player One. Now, I think one of the reasons I loved this movie, Incredibles 2, 9 out of 10, by the way. I think one of the reasons I love this movie is because I did see it the weekend after Infinity War, which kind of left me a bit devastated in terms of movies. And then I saw this movie, and it was just such a fun, awesome, cool-looking ride. And I actually remember this one better because I've actually seen it twice. I have it on DVD now. And oh my god, I love this movie so much. The characters are just so much fun. And Spielberg is amazing. I loved, of course, Wade in this movie. And, Artemis, or Samantha, as well. And, she was such a good character. I think I appreciate how it didn't fall into too many, like, damsel in distress tropes either. She kicked butt. And of course, H, there's a surprise with that character as well. And just the fact that they did so well to integrate every character and make them all feel like they're unique and have unique abilities in and outside of the game. It did so well, but I love all the pop culture references, of course. It's an 80s throwback. What do you expect? I love it. There was so much going on in the movie, plot-wise, and it managed to have some interesting emotional stakes with the characters. Because, and yeah, it's not exactly going to be a heartfelt or like a drama or whatever, but it was such a fun ride. I can't get over that, honestly. So, this movie just blew me away. Such a fun ride. I legitimately loved it so much. And my phone is buzzing. I don't know. Let me just make sure there's not an emergency. So yeah, great fun time with a 9 out of 10. Alright. It is just an email. Alright, so. Okay. I will look at that later. Alright, so number 2 is going to be the movie I saw yesterday, which blew my mind. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Holy moly! Oh my god. I was expecting it to be kind of weird at first when I saw the trailers, and then I heard it was getting really good reviews, and I'm like, okay. So then I went into it, and of course, it's Sony Animation, it's Sony Spider-Man. I'm like, what am I expecting here? And I went in, and the art style was amazing. There were serious emotional stakes. I felt for all the characters. Most of the characters were extremely well developed, and the whole story arc, just taking on a different angle to Spider-Man, letting the story follow Miles as opposed to Peter Parker. I've never been a big fan of Peter Parker, so I absolutely loved, and what they did for humor, there's a lot of poking fun at Spider-Man movies, and the art style, again, is just phenomenal. I loved it so much. So, my number 1, you can probably guess this at this point, is going to be, by the way, 9.5 for Spider-Verse, and 9.5 for this movie as well, because there is not a perfect movie. But my number 1 movie of the year, this one was just the one that impressed me most when it came out. Watching it back, it's still a very good movie, but I don't think it impresses me as much as it did. It's going to be Black Panther. Oh my god. I don't really know what to expect from this. I was like first getting into the MCU, and seeing this on the big screen was such a special experience. I loved the, beautiful, like, backgrounds and, like, CGI and, like, scenery, like, in Africa, and there's a lot of culture stuff, and there's a lot of really deep stuff going on as well. I know people are like, hey, it's a soft remake of The Lion King, but I'm like, why the hell not? The MCU has done everything and anything they can do. So, And honestly, it's better than The Lion King as far as I'm concerned. We are getting an actual remake of The Lion King next year, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, honestly, Black Panther was probably my favorite movie of the year. The characters felt well fleshed out and developed. There was a lot of storyline. The women in it kicked butt. The villain was super interesting, which is interesting to note because I know a lot of people, yeah, the villain was super interesting. It's just, yeah. So, a lot of people complain about the villains in the MCU, and this one was really interesting, and I loved, there was some great side plots. Again, it looked great. The visual colors they used like a lot of purple and like the South Korea scenes. The sequences were so good. The movie just felt epic to me, and everything about it just came together to make a fantastic, fantastic MCU film. Have big expectations for next year. We're getting, I think, Frozen 2, Endgame, Star Wars, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man Homecoming 2, Men in Black International, Lion King, Toy Story 4, Aladdin. We're getting a lot of movies next year. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited for that. Sadly, no Wonder Woman until 2020, which is really disappointing to me because that was probably my favorite movie of 2017. So, yeah. Very, very excited to see what's in store next year. A bunch of surprises I'm not even aware of yet. The only thing I'm actively dreading next year and probably won't be seeing is Secret Life of Pets 2. Let's pray to God it's better than the first one. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you like this, click like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on my bell for notifications. And I'll see you in the next one.